Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is the 5-minute Bible study that's protein and probiotic packed. It's full of good stuff because it's made from 100% Bible. As a matter of fact, 3 out of 14 doctors say you should listen to Daily Dose Radio. So, that should be enough for anybody, right? This is the Bible Bistro. Come on in. Sit down. Have a seat. We're going to be studying today and all this week, Psalm 38. This is one of the penitential psalms. As a matter of fact, this is the third one in the list. We began the penitential psalms in Psalm 6, and then also we had Psalm 32 was the second one. This is the third one in the list. A penitential psalm is a psalm where we have the penitent confessing sin and pleading with the Lord for forgiveness and deliverance from the result of sin. And that's what we have here in, so much measure in this psalm. This is one of those psalms that you kind of sit back and say, wow, David was really hurting here when he wrote this. We have a title for this psalm because David said this is a psalm for commemoration. Maybe for remembering, maybe for memorializing. David wanted some way for this to be repeated. He wanted to know that he had prayed this kind of prayer and that God had delivered him from this. So he's recording this so that he can look back on it and say, yep, the Lord saved me from that. He delivered me from that. I confessed my sin, and look what happened. The Lord came in like a flood. Well, we have here a Psalm of David for commemoration, and we're just going to do probably about 4 verses each this week. Probably on Thursday, Friday, we'll do 5 verses each. It's 22 verses long. So it's going to take us this week to get through it, Psalm 38, and I'll be reading today verses 1 through 4. O Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. For thine arrows stick fast in me, and thy hand presseth me sore. There is no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger, neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. For mine iniquities are gone over mine head as a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. Kind of want to say Selah there, don't we? Yeah. Boy, can you feel it? I sure can. Listen to those words. He says, there's no soundness in my flesh because of your anger. There's neither any rest because of my sin. So God's anger and David's sin, those two things, go hand in hand. He is angry with the wicked every day. He says that in the Psalter. That's one of our Psalms. He's angry with the wicked every day. So David, in pleading with the Lord, knows that the anger that he's experiencing because of the resultant illness that he's suffering under is because of sin. Notice that he says that there in 3. There's no rest in my bones because of my sin. You remember, it was a couple of Psalms back now, he talked about there is no moisture in me. I'm dried up, no juice. We talked about that. There's no juice in me. Well, here it is again. There's no rest in the bones because of sin. Look at verse 4. My iniquities are gone over mine head as a heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. You cannot carry your load of sin. But what you can do is what David is doing here as he begins in verse 1 of Psalm 38 saying, O Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath. And by the way, as you look at verse 1, I want you to think about Psalm 6. Go back there and look at the first verse of Psalm 6. This is penitential, and these two verses are a lot alike. They're not exactly, but they're a lot alike. O Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath, neither chasten me in thine hot displeasure, for thine arrows stick fast in me, and thine hand presses. One of the commentators I read said that it's like the Lord is pushing the arrows deeper in. So, David feels his hot displeasure, and it's because of sin, and he's going to confess his sin because they're way too heavy for him. Perhaps your sin is too heavy for you. Call on the Lord today, as David did, and cry out, rebuke me not in thy wrath. Join me again tomorrow. We'll look at verses 5 through 8 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.